Hey all, I'm Jordan and welcome to the channel where we talk about cocktail stuff and camera stuff, usually at the same time. Today, I'm going to be sharing 5 beverage photography tips with you. I've built an entire career out of just shooting for liquor brands like Jack Daniel's, Patron, Grey Goose, and many more. Doing the whole cocktail and liquor brand photographer thing is not necessarily an easy niche, but it is a really fun and profitable one to get into, which is why I'm here. I'm gonna show you how to do what I do, and I'm gonna start with these 5 tips for all of you aspiring beverage photographers. Tip number 1 is to become an obsessive observer of light, which is important for really any and every type of photography because photography is all about light. Being an obsessive observer of light is more than just knowing what time golden hour starts. It's being so familiar with light and how it changes and works to the point where you know exactly how to make it do your bidding. Like when I was starting out with drink photography, I used to just wander around my backyard, cocktail in one hand, camera in the other, looking for somewhere with cool or interesting light. I'd find a spot that looked really cool. Maybe the sun lit the glass just right, but then I'd go back to that spot the next day and it didn't look the same. The weather had changed or it was a different time of day or something. It took me a long time, but throughout the whole process of hunting for that good light, I eventually became very familiar with how light works and the types of images I'd be able to capture on a bright, clear day with that really bright, direct sunlight versus an overcast day with more indirect, diffused sunlight. I will be releasing more in-depth videos about lighting here very soon, but for now, if you haven't started already, obsessively observe the lighting around you whenever you're shooting. Because really, if you have good lighting for your images, it doesn't matter that much if you're shooting on a fancy camera or just your smartphone. Lighting really does make or break an image. So if you want to master photography, you must always be a student of light. I know that tip was a bit more big picture, so this next one is very practical, and it is to set up your shot before you make or pour the drink. Beverage photography is about capturing the drink at its best. You want your viewer to look at your photos and feel thirsty. For you food photographers, you totally get this because you obviously want the food you're shooting to look amazing and to be as appetizing as possible. The tricky thing with many drinks, especially most cocktails, is that they have a lifespan. If left for too long, these drinks die, whether that's the ice melting or a garnish wilting or the drink just looking kind of melty and sweaty from built up condensation. You often don't have much time to capture a cocktail before it no longer looks very good. That's why I recommend setting up your shot before you make the cocktail or before you pour it into the glass. You'll want to 1, set up your scene, decide where exactly you'll be shooting, then 2, decide on your shooting position, what angle or angles you'll be shooting from, which also involves deciding what sort of background you'll have in your shot. Number 3, you'll also want to assess your lighting situation. Will you use natural light or flash? And you may need to reposition your scene accordingly to get the best lighting. Then number 4, I always take an empty cocktail glass and take some test shots with it to see if the lighting and everything looks good before I pour the cocktail. If you make a drink and pour it in the glass before you make all of these decisions and changes, depending on the type of drink, it may start breaking down before you can shoot it. Just picking up and moving a cocktail or a beer or whatever around a lot, it can leave drip marks on the glass, or a garnish could easily be moved or fall into the drink. Avoid having to make the cocktail a second time just because the drink died on you. Set up your shot, make as many of these important creative decisions before any liquid hits the glass. Our next tip is about post-processing or photo editing, and that is edits should enhance your images, not distract from them. I'm sure you've seen this on social media, but I see a lot of influencer types selling their photo editing presets. They'll usually do a before and after photo showing an image on its own, then the same image with their preset on it, and the intended response is, wow, look how much better that photo looks with their preset. But sadly, more often than not, I like the before image a lot more, because if you're looking at a photo and you think, cool edit or cool preset, it's either not a very good photo because you're just admiring the preset, or the edit itself one-ups the photo and distracts from the image. An edit should enhance the photo, but sadly, most presets or edits end up taking away from it. Now, I'm not trying to diss anyone here or make you feel bad if there are presets you use a lot. Presets, when used well, can be very valuable and useful tools for speeding up the editing process. But you shouldn't rely on presets to fix your photos because it just doesn't work that way. Keep your edits subtle. Focus on the subject of your image, whether that's a product or a cocktail or a person. And as you edit, think about how to draw the viewer's attention towards your subject. With each slider you adjust, whether that's brightness or contrast, or whether or not you decide to use a preset, ask yourself, does this change I'm going to make enhance my image, or does it distract from it? Our fourth tip is to find or build a creative community. Now, I don't just mean post your work on social media and try to gain as many followers or likes as you can. Yes, social media is a big part of our world now. My career has been largely propelled by it. So working on connecting with people online and growing a following will only benefit your career. But I'm talking about something a little different here. I'm talking about either finding or orchestrating a group of people, whether online or IRL, that you can talk with, bounce ideas off of, and grow together in your creative pursuits. When I was still fairly new to doing this beverage photography thing, I ended up connecting with a few different guys on Instagram who were in a similar spot as me. We all like cocktails, we all took photos, and as we started talking online, we found out that we all worked with some similar brands here and there. So we ended up forming a group chat and would regularly compare notes on upping our photography games and how to improve. When one of us got a new client inquiry that we weren't totally sure how to quote out, someone in the group would help out or give advice. Some people in the group were like me, where they were trying to do this thing full time. Others, photography was more of a side gig, but there was plenty of give and take from everyone, and we helped each other grow and get better at what we were doing, and we all became really good friends from it. This isn't super straightforward because it's not like you can just make a group of like-minded individuals like yourself appear out of thin air. There isn't really a formula for making this sort of community happen either, but social media and other online forums does make finding a community a bit easier. It does require putting yourself and your work out there. Even if you feel like your photography isn't as good as it could be yet, just start sharing your work. Whether that's on Instagram or in Facebook groups or on TikTok or whatever social media platform is relevant whenever you're watching this video. Just start putting your work out there and see who engages with it. It does take time, effort, commitment, all of that to engage with others and start building that trust and camaraderie. But being able to have a group of people that you can both give to and grow from will be invaluable in your creative endeavors. This last tip is also an incredibly important one, and that is your work has value regardless of your social media following. I hate, and I use that word very intentionally, I hate when I talk with other photographers who undercharge for their work, or even worse, work for free because they don't have many followers yet. Listen, if a brand or potential client is hitting you up to produce imagery for their company, then the number of followers you have does not matter at all. Yes, there is such a thing as sponsored posts, and if you build an audience and get a lot of followers, you can charge more for that sort of thing. But brands often seek out talented photographers on social media and are willing to hire them to produce imagery for their brand, not necessarily sponsored posts. Most of my new client inquiries starting out came through Instagram, and these brands wanted me to create imagery for them to use. I do understand that if you're inexperienced, like I once was, and haven't done much paid work yet, quoting out a photography project for a brand can be difficult, but you need to understand that your work, your photography, your art has immense value in and of itself. And that number of followers or subscribers or likes on whatever social media platform does not determine the worth of your work. period. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel because I will soon be releasing content that is specifically focused on helping you more confidently communicate with and even approach potential clients and brands, which includes writing contracts, putting together detailed proposals and estimates, and getting paid good money for doing beverage photography because you are worth a lot. Just completely take your social media following or lack thereof out of the equation because it does not belong there to begin with. There you go. Those are my 5 tips. Please let me know in the comments on this video if you have any suggestions for tutorials or things you'd like to learn about beverage photography, whether that has to do with the actual creative or technical side of things, as well as all the nitty-gritty businessy stuff. I want to cover all of it. I'm here to help you out and share what I've learned throughout my career, and we're only just getting started.